Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Casey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
The writing on the wall. Who's on tonight? Is is Shelton on?
Yeah. And Sophie.
And Schnars?
And Schnars.
I need to do a I need to do a quick test here. Actually, I'm just gonna roll right now. What's now we're on?
Have we heard? Sophie's planning to join, I assume.
I added her on here. She's got 2 accounts too, so I'm never sure which one.
Yeah, it always confuses the shit out of me.
Yeah, she piped up an email a couple times.
She
So
texted me and said she was rebooting her computer.
Boot
I'm
it up.
recording right now. I have to do a quick test because something real weird happened last time I recorded the show. Just make sure you have your backup, Casey.
Sheldon's looking real concerned on his side.
I am.
There's a lot of like shaking your head, and I don't know.
I was just watching the trailer for the new Rambo movie, so I'm very concerned.
So you are concerned. Yeah. I have not seen it.
He's an old man. He's
Yeah.
Steroids just can't be that good when you're in your 70s.
I was just gonna say he's an old man, a very roided out man.
Yeah.
I watched. I think I talked about it on the show. I can't even remember. I watched Creed on the airplane,
I love
and
Creed.
yeah, it was great, and
Uh-huh.
he was really good in it.
Yeah.
So
Did the second one
I'm
come
a
out?
Stallone fan.
yeah.
I
I haven't seen
the second one.
That's pretty good. First one's better, but that's good.
I mean,
Hello.
the second one is Dolph Lundgren, so it's like a lot of old man roids.
Yep.
Hello.
And that's all natural, Dolph.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
How do you like the new cans?
Oh, I haven't seen him. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Fancy.
So white.
Yeah.
So what was it? Ivory? So ivory.
It's ivory and like brown. Like this part's brown.
What model?
These are Sennheiser 599s.
Ooh.
I got these. I don't even know what they are. Oh, they're Sony's.
Yeah,
I got
599s. So they're like they're not quite like true what they call like monitoring headphones, where you're like not getting. It's just like clean. It's not quite like audiophile level, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, I've got the
Like,
558.
Because the problem when you get into audiophile headphones, and this is the thing I've learned about, is that they have to be amplified. So like you can't just if you get really really nice headphones, you can't just plug them into your iPhone because your iPhone can't push them, and you won't hear anything.
Yeah.
So then you have to buy like a
Mm.
portable amp, and it's just like a whole thing. So
It's funny you were talking about it because I just saw. I didn't read the whole article, but there was an article I clicked on, and maybe you all know this because he's been out about this. But Neil Young, that's like his big thing, is that like
yeah,
all
he has
these,
a
like,
music
yeah.
service that's all about like really
It's
really high quality
Like
or something.
lossless.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
he
all
came out with
black
like
and
a
stuff.
I know
iPad.
he released his
Or
own. He released his own catalog
it?
like lossless or something like that.
yeah. Well, yeah, and no, John. I think Sheldon, what he did, at least from what I remember, and
He
this
had
was
a
like,
device.
There was
Yeah.
a player.
well, it was like, but it was like 07 or 08, and I think he did it through what's it called? Fucking that crowdfunding site that's like, for the bigger
Kickstarter.
stuff. Yes. Thank you, Sophie. Hello.
Hello.
Did you ever hear that story about him back in the day? And he had he was listening to one of his albums, the mastering on it, and he had a lake. Somebody was telling the story. He had 2 houses next to each other on a lake, and he would fire it up in both houses with all the windows open, crank it up. His hi-fis in both houses as loud as they could, and float out in the middle of the lake. That's the sound.
That's awesome.
have hobbies.
The nice things about these is this part, John, has this is the key to good headphones if you're going to wear them all the time. Like, because I wear them all day at work. This is microfiber, not like fake pleather or whatever bullshit,
Oh,
because that
yeah.
stuff gets weird and clammy and like gross. I don't like it. The key
yeah,
is
well, it
this.
falls apart after
And
a
these,
while.
the Sennheiser, they make them so that you can take them off and wash them or replace them. So like, cause I literally some work days I have these on for like 8 hours straight. So and then I wear 'em for the
I'm just
show.
glad my Eric's happy. That's
Oh,
as I was
I
saying.
couldn't be happier.
So,
Well,
I rely on my earbuds for work, and they work well, except for the occasional degunking you have to do.
ugh, yeah.
I just stopped my test. I'm gonna just listen to it here. If you guys could just all mute for a sec.
Good luck.
We are live, by the way, just so you guys know.
And we heard. I mean, Sophie's planning to join. I assume.
I added her on here.
Yeah.
You know, the steroids just can't be that good when you're in your.
Oh, he released his
Or
own.
I-
He released. Okay, that's not. I need to do something here. Hey, is my phone over there? Oh, sorry. Can I actually borrow those for like 2? Actually, I'll just use. I can just use this.
We finished our day at work today with a fun hour-long Q&A with our CIO on the upcoming reorg and the chances of being laid off or not. It's always a great way to end your day.
Yeah, fun.
Seriously.
Corporate fun.
You
You're like-
betcha.
You're like right out of the office. Wait, was there like? Is there what? Like, there's not. You guys didn't do. It's not like a new, acquisition or anything. It's literally just they're just restructuring.
We brought the CIO in, like the new CIO in like 9 months ago, so it's part of his whole plan with reorging. And but we're also, because we outsourced 5 years ago to Cognizant for a lot of our IT services, and that contract's up, so they're redoing the RFP.
Sweet.
I don't
Yep.
understand about 80% of what you just said.
I talked to Cognizant about an RFP at one point. I think it was for like ad operations stuff.
Yeah.
They basically do any back office, is my understanding. Like they'll
Yeah.
do like literally anything. So
They're better on the dev side than they are on the infrastructure side. I can tell you that much.
I don't need either of those services. So easy
Lucky
call
you.
for me. Yeah, there you go.
I know they are
Hey,
bringing.
random?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Casey.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I know they're switching up our contractor for our service desk because we got too many complaints about it not being Americans.
Typical.
Yep.
Sophie, do you have an IT question you'd like to run by
Sorry,
our team?
Sophie.
Or-
I don't, but I do have a question, which is, so we have a tweet with BGH this coming weekend, and we're doing Idle Hands, which I've never seen.
God.
Ooh.
Does anybody have drinking game rule ideas to help me out?
it's
Doesn't
been
Eric
too
like
long.
love that movie? I feel like Eric's like a huge Idle Hands fan for some reason. Is he not there? Did he disappear?
He's got
He's
his
just
headphones.
headphones off. He's not listening to us.
Okay.
Not at all.
He's obsessed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since the '90s. I have no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been too long.
Same.
Okay.
It is a
I'll
great.
bug
It
Eric
is a
about
great
it later.
flick, though.
I've never seen it. I'm very excited.
It's Devon Sawa. Is that? It's
Yeah.
a Devon Sawa.
Yeah,
The
joint?
it's
Offspring.
And Seth Green's in there too, isn't he?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
he's
was
gotta
the
be.
'90s, so
He's gotta be.
He's got to be.
All right, so
Uh,
can you guys hear me?
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just need another minute.
Is this show related? That's the important thing.
Yes,
I
it
need to
is.
know.
Last week it recorded all fucked up, and I don't know why.
Did you hear Sophie's question about Idle Hands? Aren't you a big Idle Hands fan?
I am a big Idle Hands fan. Yes.
There, see, I knew it.
She
Eric,
needs
when you're
drinking
not
game.
doing what you're doing now, I need drinking game rules for Idle Hands because I've never seen it, and we're doing it for a tweet with BGH this weekend.
Number one, I would say anytime the guy takes a hit off of his like weed inhaler thing, he has
Okay.
like an inhaler that hangs around his neck that's actually like a bowl, and so he just opens it up and takes a hit.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. When you say
Constantly.
that guy, are we talking about Devon Sawa, Seth Green?
Devon Sawa.
Okay.
Couldn't it just be when anybody takes a hit off the thing around his neck? I mean,
Mostly,
Don't share your bowl, John.
it's like a personal bowl pizza. Can you guys hear this?
yeah.
So was this one of those like bowl necklaces that Pizza Hut would give you if you read enough books in school?
Sure. Yes, very similar.
Who picked Idle Hands? That's what I want to know, Sophie.
So I picked it. So I guess for anyone that didn't listen to the show last week, my 30th birthday is over Labor Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So we're celebrating a week early because my younger brother works at a college and is going to have to work all of Labor Day weekend. But myself and about 23 of my friends rented a beach house in Florida for the weekend. And Evan and Spencer were supposed to both be there. Only Spencer's going to be there now. But we had decided before we knew that we were going to do Tweet with BGH this weekend and do it like live from my birthday. And I picked Idle Hands because I've never seen it, but I love Seth Green.
Can I you guys just mute for once?
Can
you guys mute just for 1
Yes.
second and then we can start? Sorry. Oh, he released his own. He released his own catalog like Lossless or something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and no, John, I think Sheldon, what he did, at least from what I.
All right. Well, I think that's okay. Casey, you're running your backup. Yeah. Okay. All right. So off the top here, quick, we're gonna do. John, do you want to talk about top 25?
Sure.
I mean, it's almost September. You don't want to talk about it? I just got excited.
No, we
I
can
got
talk about
excited
it
today. Let's talk about it.
All right, we'll talk about it. I don't want you to start going through your list though. Just telling you right up front.
We'll do we'll do quick meetup and BGH 5K, and that's it.
I don't have any of the details of the 5K.
I can plug the Tweet with BGH for this weekend.
Okay, sounds good.
Backup's rolling.
Thank you, sir. Casey, why don't you, as soon as the show's over, just throw that into Drive, so that way when I go to edit, if something's screwy, I can just immediately grab it.
Sure.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. All right, stand by. You guys can mute.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing scary stories to tell in the dark. These are stories that are scary. I'm told this movie's about a book, but John is, as we've well established over the course of this show, if this was a book that I was supposed to have read when I was a kid, I did not read it, so I'm not aware.
They're essentially picture books, just to be clear.
I will believe you if you tell me it's based on a book. That's where I'm at. I'm your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, card-carrying member of BGH, the new class. Please welcome Sophie.
Hey, team. How's it going?
Bust out that card at bars. Excuse me.
All the time.
Yeah. Do you know who I am?
A lot of discounts.
Yeah. Next up, from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
Coming to us from Texas. That's where you are,
Oh,
right,
you got it
Sheldon?
this time.
Texas? Are you in Austin?
Close. San Antonio.
I've been there. I've been to San Antonio.
I live there.
If only you had known him for like 12 years,
Yeah,
then you
I've
would
only
know
lived here
where
for 9 years.
We have a lot of people all over the place, John, okay? I can't be expected to remember all
and
of
to
it.
be fair, Professor Shelton's lived in other countries in that 12 years we've known him.
That's also true.
Yeah,
Thank
true.
you. Thank you.
I did move a lot early on.
Joining us tonight from Sophisticalled Cinema, please welcome John Shelton.
Oh, hi there, everybody.
John Shelton of Sophisticalled / horror trivia fame.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm just still like really touched that like you know where I like live now.
I
The
knew
state.
where you. I just.
At the city.
So sometimes I have a vague idea of something, but I don't want to say it in case I'm wrong, and so then I ask, and it makes it look like I don't know at all. and I'm not never sure which one's worse. Like, is it worse if I ask, even though I kind of know, or is it worse if I get it wrong?
It's funny because when reviewing the films, you're very comfortable giving wrong opinions all the time. So
You got to save them all up.
And
for
I
that,
never
that
forget
portion of the show.
I never forget any details
yeah,
of things
no,
that happen
never.
in movies, or like the title. Never forget. Oh, John, you got me all excited today.
Oh yeah, in which
M-
regard?
More than usual. Did you want? You sent out this list of we're starting to. I was gonna say procreate, but that's not the right word.
Definitely not.
Curate. How's that?
Sure.
Just curate our top
Sure.
25 films of the decade.
Mm-hmm.
So we did one of these lists on the site back in 2010. But what blew me away about this list when I looked at it is like this list not only encompasses like a decade, like a from the looks of it, a pretty important decade in horror cinema, right? But it
Mhm.
encompasses a literal decade of BGH history. We've been around for every year that this list encompasses, and that's a really cool thing that kind of struck me. Like as I'm looking, it literally goes back to Insidious. If you think of how much the genre's changed since Insidious, and I'm not saying that for better or worse. I'm just saying like Insidious really, we looking back now, started a whole subgenre of like modern horror. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it also seems
100%.
like I was a baby when that movie came. I mean, I was.
You
I
had
don't
no
know.
children.
No.
You probably weren't married,
God,
if I
I was
remember
a child
correctly.
myself, John.
Yeah.
Just a
yeah.
mewling.
Babe in the woods.
I was gonna
mewling
say the
baby.
worst part of this decade list is gonna be going through that list thinking, shit, did I see that movie?
No,
Um,
I think you'll be surprised. I mean, I think I've seen every single one. So the way what I should say, we should say this up front. The goal here is for Halloween or the general spooky season, we will be publishing the Bloody Good Horror definitive, yada yada, best of the decade. But we wanted to start with a sort of provisional ballot that is kind of like the movies that we are willing to allow people to consider as they are voting and making their opinions known. I'm targeting 150 movies on the list to get down to 25 finalists. I basically went through every one of the top 10 votes that we did. And to Eric's point, we have a top 10 list for every single year since 2010. And it was crazy because like
It's very cool.
I was going back the 2010 top 10 list. First of all, we didn't have a system, so it was just like complete chaos. But like I was thinking, like our buddy Tor, you remember Tor?
Yeah.
His list. Oh boy,
Oh yeah.
there are some real treats on that list.
Something else. Nice.
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm very excited. I went through and did a provisional like, would I consider this, and just like put checks next to a bunch for myself. I had 50 movies that were in my list.
See,
So-
not me. I went through. I had 32, and I
Alright,
think
that's good.
save for maybe like right down to the wire. I think it's going to be a fairly easy chop down to 25. Like I love almost avoid. You had Crawl on the list, which like seriously,
oh
dude,
come on.
you just
Come
killing me
on
at this
now.
point.
Well,
Top
I
25
had
of
to
the
do, I had to
decade,
do some
bro.
guessing with 2019 because it's like, who knows where our top 10 list is going to shake out for 2019. So it was like,
Listen.
I just basically threw on anything that was like a
Crawl is
possible vote.
definitely a top 25 alligator movie.
Carl's getting rated high just out of spite
I
at this
know.
point.
You better watch yourself.
No, but
Yeah,
I
you're-
definitely have a couple hot takes incoming, John. So get
No,
ready.
I
Get
look forward to
excited.
it. There's going to be a bunch of stuff. I mean, look, you even mentioned Insidious. Like, I don't know where I'm going to put that movie, but I feel like it kind of has to be on the list.
I kind
because
of feel
like,
the
what it-
same. I kind of feel the
Yeah.
same. Yeah, and I've really like
Mm.
I've always loved that movie. It's only like time that soured me on just the overall, the further, but like I loved that movie when it came out, dude. I was
Yeah.
obsessed.
The real question is our episode where we reveal the top 25 going to be like 5 hours long, or
Probably,
we're going to have to
yeah.
really think through this thing because
As long as you send me beer, I'll record all this as long as you want.
obviously by the end it'll be bad. So, but
Good
yeah,
times,
it's
man.
coming.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So keep an eye. Excuse me. Keep an eye out. BloodyGoodHorror.com. John, I was sick like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still sick. I'm just
You
still
have
coughing.
you have what I like to call a horrible immune system. So
Just a dumpster fire of a body. That's what
Yeah.
I have.
it's not a good body.
No, it's not great. It's not like not
Wow.
like
Yeah.
Slim Good body.
No, I
Right.
know. I do have to get 2 shoulder surgeries most likely. So I thought,
Damn,
thought everybody
bro.
would be excited for that.
I
Yeah.
can barely move my shoulder above my like parallel there. So
You might
I got
need
sciatica.
Oh,
are you
there
gonna
you
get?
go.
Are you gonna get bionic?
I didn't realize it was on the Old Man podcast.
John, are you gonna get like bionic shoulders?
Wow.
I wish.
That'd be
That's
cool as
that
hell.
might be on the table. We'll see. I
Are
gotta
you
talk
getting
to
like
this.
cadaver shoulders?
No, probably not.
That's
They'll
always
still be
cool.
100% Schnars. Don't
Oh.
worry.
Because you're gonna kill your clone that's on an island somewhere for their shoulders.
What was that? Was that movie called The Island?
The
I
island,
think?
yeah. Well, you don't really need to kill them for the shoulders. You can just lop them off and just stitch the
Yeah.
rest of the arm back on.
They
They
can
just
keep,
won't.
yeah, they can keep living.
They just won't
They
be able to play
don't need arms
football.
on that island.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's some more good organs on there.
there you go.
John's young clone that he gets blood infusions from on a weekly basis.
Blood boy.
Eric, I have 3 children. Like,
Listen,
why do I need a clone?
I would try that. If some young person wants to give me their blood, I'll try it. Give me your stem cells, young
Ah.
person.
God.
What's the worst?
So you hear that? That's a good segue into the meetup. If anybody wants to come and just bring a sack of blood or
Yeah.
just a direct transfusion,
We should try
we
one
can
of
knock
those.
that out right there in the bar.
Rich platelets.
We should try one of those services that'll come the next day after a party and like give you fluids. Can we do that?
I don't know. We can.
that in
We
the
can do some
budget?
Hangover
research.
IVs.
I'm
could save
sure
that
Joe
for
knows
the,
the services.
Because as a
Yeah, I was
stat,
gonna
as
say
we
could save that one for when we had the meetup in Vegas.
as we establish, my body is bad and I need help.
Well, like, do we have any patrons or listeners who work in the medical field who can just hook us up with that?
Yeah,
Hundo P. Yes.
I'd let that happen. I don't.
Our
really
buddy
have-
Reese
yeah.
is.
Is it
he's-
free?
I think we can get.
Then
I
sure.
think we can get with him.
Let's do it. And then we can get our lawyer friend to advise us as to the legality of that whole situation.
His blood.
Spaceman lawyer.
All right,
Good.
John, that's very exciting. If you want details on this Bloody Horror meetup, it's in Chicago. We're going to do some trivia with Mr. Shelton. We're going to have a Patreon meetup. BloodyGoodHorror.com. All that information is there.
Sure is.
Very exciting. And also, we got the BGH 5K coming up. Do you know that weekend is? That's post meetup, right?
Sure.
Yes,
Wow.
because there was talk of a training run at the meetup.
Yes.
Oh, that's
yeah.
right.
That.
Yeah.
I think it might be the weekend before Halloween.
Nah, son.
If I. No. Oh,
No, I mean,
Jesus.
nah, son. We're not doing a training run at the meetup.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Now you're just
False.
confusing me. Yeah, this is why Joe is in charge of events now.
All right.
So,
Great job, John. Yeah,
Mm.
we did some good work here today.
Just happy to be part of the process.
All right, guys. Are you ready to tell scary stories in the dark?
I have some lights on, but otherwise, I think we'll be good.
Absolutely.
John, fix the white balance on your camera. It's driving me insane.
Is that me or other John?
No, Schnars, you look literally like you're, I don't know, what's a yellow planet?
You look a little jaundiced.
Yeah.
You're a little
exactly.
jaundiced.
God, it's so weird. I don't know.
Did you say what's a yellow planet?
I was going to say you
Gotta
look
be.
like you're on the surface of Venus or something. But I don't know. There's got to be a yellow planet, right?
I think
Maybe
Jupiter
he's on the
probably
sun?
pretty,
Question mark.
Crypt. Oh, it's the sun. Nice.
Guys, it's literally about how far away I'm sitting.
Well, you
It's
have
'cause
some.
what-
You have like auto white balance on. See, because that it's an auto adjust. God damn it, John. Just fix your shit. All right, guys. Let's take a quick break and review scary stories to tell in the dark.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch.
Main feature.
And we're back. I think we need our boy Dusty to grab the video at this point and grab Schnars' facial expressions, trying to figure out his video settings, because it is like a caveman trying to figure out how to start a fire for the first time.
I legit cannot. I'm looking in the Skype settings. I can't find anything there. It's got to be in the.
Do I need to point out that
system.
you work for
sys preferences?
that you work for a podcast company?
Yeah, we're not a technology company. Come on, I got out of that game, friend.
Did you guys see that
Uh,
article today in Variety about how Conan O'Brien is revolutionizing podcasts?
It was a good article.
People-
I read the whole thing.
You did not.
How? I
My-
didn't read the article. How is he revolutionizing
My
podcasts?
boss
Just
was
'cause he
like
has one?
quoted. in the,
Everybody
like,
online
second
was like,
paragraph.
yes, because there have been no podcasts for the last 15 years. Because it also, the premise is like, he's turning it into a business. And it's like, plenty of
What?
podcasts
no,
have
he-
I mean,
monetized
Schnars
it.
went to the
Alright, wait.
official convention, so
Yeah, we don't really want to get into this right now.
No, I do. Let's get into it.
I'm just telling you, we don't. Oh, Eric, we didn't even talk about when I was at the podcast convention. I got to meet the Libsyn people.
Great.
It's like
Did,
the
did you
highlight
ask?
of my.
Did you ask them
Huh?
why they never respond to my service requests?
I didn't, but I did.
What's the point
ask
of a
them for a
convention?
T-shirt, and they gave it to me.
Great.
I'll take it out of my drawer in a second.
That helps me.
I was like, guys, we've been working with you for 10 years. Could you throw a brother a T-shirt? And they were like, yeah, we'd love to do that. So it was cool. We're friends now, so it's okay.
Cool. Do you have a person you can reach out to and find out why they don't respond to my emails?
They did. Somebody gave me their card. Yeah, I'll take a look and be like, hey, can you respond to Eric's email?
Great.
Shut Eric up, please.
Well, John, you don't understand video settings, but you do understand words.
Sometimes.
Well, because you went to Duke.
Yeah, I'm giving up on the video settings, by the way.
No, I don't think you tried very hard, but that's fine.
All right, whatever.
John, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, today's word, psychography. That's psychography.
Psych.
Psychography. The definition here from Merriam-Webster.com: automatic writing used for spiritualistic purposes. Just let that digest. It could also mean the production of images of spirits upon sensitive plates without the use of a camera, held to be accomplished by means of spiritualistic forces. I don't know. That one doesn't make much sense. And then the description of an individual's mental characteristics and their development. Psychography. You can probably guess, psych, and then
Psych.
graphy with the writing and whatnot.
Psych was a great 90s burn. Just like, psych.
Wait. I do it to my children to this day. It doesn't work great. They don't quote unquote get it, but
it makes you feel
it's
good
As long as
inside.
it amuses you.
Makes you feel good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and my wife laughs occasionally. So yeah, psychography. So psychography is deployed fairly regularly, I would say, in horror and horror adjacent media. Anytime someone is hypnotized and then like writes something, even like a Ouija board is like sort of a psychography.
A what now?
A Ouija.
A Ouija board?
Ouija.
Yes. Yeah. It has an A at the end, so I'm gonna just pronounce it the way I want.
All right. Dude.
But yeah, that also could be considered psychography. So yeah, there you go.
John, this is a book. This is a book, right?
Yeah, I actually would turn this over to Shelton. I feel like, John, you read these like I remember you were talking about on Slack. Didn't you go back through them recently?
I did. I read through the first one again.
So what are these like? Are they anthologies, but it's also multiple books?
Yeah,
There's like three.
There's 3 books. The first 2 are the ones I'm most familiar with because the third one I think came out like in the 90s, and the first 2 were like early 80s. And they were, you remember book fairs? Remember the Scholastic Book Fair?
Yeah.
They were Scholastic books, and so they were sold at these book fairs that would come to school.
Huh.
And that's the
Yeah.
reason everybody's read them and
Yeah.
everybody's seen them, is because like they literally like sold them through schools. And yeah,
We
so the
had them
books
in my elementary school class when I was growing up.
Oh, I feel like every
Yeah.
class I was in had them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
well, except the ones that banned them, because it's
No.
also like one of the most like banned
Yeah.
books for kids like of all time. I think it's like maybe the number 1.
So
yeah.
I'm
I
unfamiliar.
mean, I'm sure there's like a writer that is credited, but it's mostly a book about illustration because the stories, if I remember, are most of, if not all, are like essentially like folk tales.
Yeah, they're folktales. I think
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, in the back, like it has all the sources. They're all traditional American folktales and urban legends and things like that.
Yeah.
That he collected, like literally, like because I went back and read the first one just to kind of like remind myself of what it was, and the whole first like section of the book are just literally jump scare stories. Like all they are just like stories where you tell a story and then you point at somebody and say, "You did it," like that kind of thing, which is like bananas. And like everything in the book is like super the hook hand guy and high beams and all that kind of stuff. That's
Wendigo.
all in there. Yeah.
Indigo.
Yeah.
Didn't they try to refresh the artwork at one point, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it kind of killed it off?
Yeah, I think so, because the
Yeah.
artwork is like the main. That's
That's the
what
big
everybody.
draw.
That's why these books were so notorious. Because like the stories themselves, they're just folk tales. They're they're kind of creepy. They're cool. Like kids would like them. But the artwork is like kind of fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
Like it's really like these books. Like I had to I would sometimes have to like put them in a drawer. I couldn't sleep at night. I would like look at it just before I go to bed and then put it on the shelf and then have to turn it around so the spine is facing in or put it in a drawer or like hide it because like those books were really like kind of terrifying. Like the artwork is legitimately like spooky as shit and kind of gory and
Well, the weird
what I was gonna say,
flat
like-
face lady is giving me nightmares from the movie, so and that looked pretty
Well,
accurate.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Eric, you should like at some point just check these out just for the art. Like you don't have to read any of the words. Don't worry. Like I'm not
John,
gonna
don't
force
try
words
to
on you.
don't try to trick me, okay? I'm not.
you
I don't
can read the whole thing in
appreciate
like 30 minutes. The words
Yeah,
are
you
very
really
big and like the stories are like 1 page long.
They're like basically learning to read books.
Yeah.
Well, then I
It's
already
like
know how.
starter horror, but
then
for books.
I already know how to read, so I don't need to read them.
There you go. All right, very
Shit.
good.
I
Yeah,
saw
you're
the
right.
movie.
You know what? Just Google it, and I'm sure the images will come up.
I'm good.
All right, don't do that.
I don't want to learn things. I
We
saw
don't
the
need to
movie.
have this fight again.
Did anyone else think that the one friend, right? Not the first friend that goes. So let's get into it here. Did anybody else?
Augie.
Did anybody else swear that that kid
The
had?
one guy, not the other guy.
Did anyone else pick up that that kid looks like a younger clone of Jason Sudeikis to the point where in the movie I went to IMDb because I was convinced it was like his little brother and it's totally not and I'm freaked out. That
Yeah.
scared me more than anything else.
His
in this
name's
movie.
Gabriel Rush.
/ Sudeikis.
I know.
It's
I know who you're talking about.
it's insane.
He was in the Wes Anderson.
John,
films.
did you explain the wraparound to the story, or were we just talking about the books?
No,
I zoned out. There.
Well, you asked about the books, so and like to John's point, no. Well, all right.
Just
so,
kidding.
the movie, it's a really interesting kind of construction, right? Because in a lot of ways, they could have just made this an anthology film, and I think that would have been a really straight up way to present it.
It took me a while to
Instead-
realize that's not what was happening. I was like, wow, this wraparound story is really developed. And then I'm like, oh no, this is the movie.
No. I kept waiting for like an inner title
Yeah.
to come up and be like,
Totally.
first story. So there's basically it's not even really worth calling it an overarching story because it really is the full narrative. But you've got a series of friends, Stella, Augie, and Chuck. And they're kind of like the nerds in their high school, whatever. It's a pretty standard setup. It's set on Halloween. They are beefing with a bully. They run into this haunted house. It's like a huge mansion, and they're basically like hiding there. Well, not hiding there. They're walking around, kind of exploring it to scare themselves on Halloween. And then the bully comes to find them. They go to hide, and they find this secret room, which the bully then locks them in. And then they sort of explain that, oh, this is the room where there was this famous daughter that was, part of this like rich family. This is where they kept her, and that basically tees up this whole idea of this book that contains all of these stories, these scary stories that she told herself in the dark, presumably, and so basically they take Stella eventually becomes the main character. We can come back to that.
Stella.
Yeah, Stella.
Timely reference for you.
There you go. Stella takes the book with her, and what happens then is that the book sort of haunts them and other people in the town, and the book starts writing stories. So she would open it to a blank page and essentially a story would start to appear. And after one or two stories, she realizes, oh, as these things are appearing on the page, they're actually happening in real life. And so, the first one, the bully gets attacked by the scarecrow who lives on his farm. And that he...
Great scarecrow, dude.
Well, the scarecrow is great. We should have a conversation about why the bully was sort of attacking the scarecrow all the time.
Fuck that
It was
scarecrow.
Super weird. Because he was like a senior in high school.
Because that kid is
It was like-
gangster. He don't want no scarecrow hanging around.
That kid was such an ass.
It took
It
me a
was so
minute to
weird.
figure out that, like, oh, this kid lives here. Because in the beginning, you don't know that. You just think he's, like, screwing around in some local, like, farm. And then, like, so it really takes you places to think that this kid has had, like, a vendetta against this scarecrow his whole life.
Dad
And, like,
always liked you better.
Presumably,
Yeah,
presumably he's been beating the shit out of this thing since he was a little
yeah,
kid.
it was super weird.
That was one of the things they were trying to adapt from the book that didn't quite carry over. Because in the story in the book is like these farmers who like make a scarecrow of like some dude that they hate, and they just like get drunk and like throw shit at it and like yell at it,
Oh yeah,
and then it comes to life and kills
Yeah,
them.
but at the
So
end of the day,
They
it's
tried to
like,
keep the core of that, but yeah, it's kind of stupid when it's a high
They
school.
But
had
they-
a drunk dude that was angry.
but they did kind of boil it
Yeah.
down to the most important thing, which is just scary scarecrow who looks like a person, like does spooky stuff in the corn, you know, like.
Well, and yeah, so to John's point, it's actually we should probably state this explicitly. So instead of there being anthologies where there's like, here is a story, and then here's the next story, they really did an interesting job of weaving
Yeah.
the stories from the books through the film. I'm actually curious, and maybe John knows the answer, or someone else, but how many of the stories they ended up using? Because I think in the movie there's like 5 sort of stories, and I remember like the spider one is like the one that I like, honest to
Oh,
God, I can still picture the
Oof, I
pictures
forgot. I
from
actually
the
had
book.
blocked that out until you just said that. It was horrifying.
Well, I remember too the like, I can't even remember it's got like a super weird name, but the like man who attacks them when they're in jail.
Mitai Doti Walker.
Yes.
Yes.
That one I remember because
So
it had a weird
terrifying.
title. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so that's sort of the setup. It essentially, the film becomes these friends having to solve the mystery of what the hell's going on with this girl and this book, so that like people will stop dying.
All right.
yeah.
Very nice, John. I'll have you know that while you were doing that, I was having a conversation on Slack with Mary, and I said Schnars is synopsizing ... and then she wrote, "Please tell me how many times he said essentially." And then as soon as I read that, you said essentially.
Oh, stop! I said it like once, maybe
Spooky.
twice.
So there you go. All right, guys. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Sophie,
Yes.
give me your hot take on this movie.
So I liked this movie quite a bit. I certainly think that there are flaws that we can talk about, but I thought this movie was really fun. And I'm sort of with Shelton. I grew up taking this out of the school library all the time and then sort of hating myself for reading it because it used to scare me so bad, and had totally forgotten about it. I was sort of reminded of it recently. I went to Panic Fest here in Kansas City back in January of 2018. And we got to see the screening of a not quite yet final cut documentary that was made about this book and the guy that wrote it and sort of the pushback about it. And it was a really cool book. And I think, like, I went to a pretty small Montessori school and I guess didn't really understand the kind of reach that this book had. I just thought it was like a weird book that my school had. So it was cool to get to watch this documentary of all these people talking about how this book scared the crap out of them. They interviewed a bunch of artists who did really cool 3D renderings of some of the artwork in various mediums, which was really cool. So I was really excited to hear this was coming out, and I sort of went into it really worried that it was going to disappoint me. And long story short, it didn't at all. I think we talked a little bit up front about how sort of the scariest part of this book is probably the artwork. And I think that this movie does frankly a pretty surprisingly good job of bringing those super creepy illustrations to life in a 3D hyper realistic way that manages to feel very true to the artwork and is still very scary and doesn't just look kind of uncanny valley and weird. So I think if this movie was maybe not made for me in particular, but this seems like something that if I had seen it when I was like 15 or 16, it would have scared the bejesus out of me and I would have loved it.
That's cute.
You were like a pretty tame 15, 16 year old.
I think we've all talked about how I did not start watching horror movies until I was in like high school and
Love it.
college. So
Well,
yes.
but that's
still gotta get the shots
but
in,
that's
though.
actually, I like that because my largest point might be that might be like the person who would be way in on this movie. So we can talk about that. Casey, what'd you think?
I was really excited for this movie for the nostalgia factor because I mean this movie. I was looking on Goodreads just now. The original book came out in '81, so even I was a kid when it came out.
Well, and that's the year the movie's set. They do match that up for sure.
Oh, the movie's in the 60s.
No, it was in '69.
Was it? I thought they said 81.
Vietnam was like a big plot point.
Yeah,
You're right. the
Richard
whole thing
Nixon
was bad.
posters
You're
were throughout the
right.
movie.
Yeah. I don't know what. Yeah.
Did you see the same
They
movie,
made
John?
a tricky dick joke.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm getting
Tricky
confused.
dick.
I'll. Yeah. All right.
It
But
was
anyways,
actually
yeah, I was
very.
really
It was
excited.
actually. Sorry, Casey. It was very interesting how hard they went in on the, like, setting the cultural scene of the moment. I actually really enjoyed that aspect of it because it's not something you see as much
And
nowadays.
it's not at all a part of the book.
Yeah, they
you know,
just.
so it completely invented for this, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
I was really hyped up for this nostalgia of it, and for the most part, the nostalgia carried me through this. It was really cool to see some of these things come to life. They really stuck to the original illustrations. I think it was Stephen Gemmell who had done those original illustrations. They stuck to those, not like the rehashed ones. They are super creepy. They're super iconic. They're the ones that stick to you. So it was really cool seeing them come to life. I was probably wrapped up enough in the nostalgia. I could overlook a lot of the issues with the movie. I would say they kind of fumbled the ending. They didn't really stick the ending at all, but I still had fun and I was really kind of drinking it in. So I was entertained.
Shelton.
Yeah, so I kind of went on a whole journey when this movie started coming out because I wasn't really sure like what it was because these books are for like 9-year-olds. Like they're really like they're not even like tween books. Like they're
Or, well, unless you're a 17-year-old Sophie, and then they're for you too.
Well, like
Wow!
everybody in their own time.
Sorry, I had to. It's too easy.
Good grief.
But anyway, when the trailers first started coming out, like this looked like a legit horror movie. It looked, like I thought maybe it would even be rated R. It looked like, definitely like pitched towards adults. And I thought, okay, well maybe what they're doing is like a movie for the people who grew up with these books, who are adults now. Then I saw the movie and it's kind of somewhere in between. It's definitely like aimed at tweens and teens. That's probably the key audience for it. But it's kind of it's got the horror elements. It's got like some scary imagery. There's not a lot of gore or anything like that. It's definitely a PG-13 movie, but it's got kind of like R-rated scares, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think
and
it
so-
it respects its audience in a really interesting way, in ways that, like, you don't really see kids movies like this a lot now, where they're like sort of, I don't know, they're treating the audience like adults who can understand a little more complicated themes than you'd normally see, like in a kids movie. Like literally, draft dodging is a big thing in this movie.
Yeah.
And racism
Racism is
gets hit
huge,
pretty
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Draft dodging in 69, John, not 81.
Yeah. No, I know.
Although I was thinking,
I
like,
thought
there
you
was
said
that.
this movie addresses draft dodging and 69, and I was like, I feel like I missed something.
There was that like meme
Come on, it was
recently
a
about.
weird plot point. Yeah.
There was that meme recently about how kids didn't know what the red room was or what the dark room was in Stranger Things season 3, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
God, kids must need so much context to understand the friggin' draft. Like what? Vietnam, like
Yeah.
all that stuff is so
Well,
ancient.
yeah,
Good point,
if you
yeah.
haven't like been through like high school history, yeah, you legit might
Yeah.
not know. I mean, we're getting to the point where most people's parents weren't
Right.
even like involved with the draft. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty high on this. I think I'm like maybe along the lines of Sophie. It's like like I said, this is a kind of kids movie, and it's sort of a kids movie, like Shelton said, maybe tween movie. Definitely like starter horror. I think it's a really pure example of starter horror in a very positive way. I think it respects its audience. It's scarier than these movies tend to be. I think. I mean, it's not like you're not going to go and be terrified. I think, but there's like, I found some of the scenes to be decently tense. I found a lot of the visuals to be pretty creepy. The whole hospital sequence is really creepy. That whole woman thing and the hugging and like that's like horrifying. The spider scene I think is super unforgettable the way they do that. They do an amazing job, I think, of weaving all this crap together. Like knowing that they sort of made up the wraparound whole cloth. It's like, and it's certainly hitting a lot of the Gang of Kids movie like greatest hits in a lot of ways, like Goonies, Stand By Me, It, like that kind of thing. Like group of kids, they need each other, they're sticking together, they go on an adventure. The other thing I kept thinking of during this movie is like, do kids even go on adventures anymore? Like, would that in itself be foreign? That you're like on your bike riding around the town, you know what I mean? I just found that I don't know. I found that aspect of it kind of interesting.
No,
But, like
no one lets children ride bikes around towns anymore. It's
I-
almost like a thing.
Also, children don't go outside anymore.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's my point. Do they? I don't know. The kids I know are like watching Minecraft all day.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my point. But I think like overall, this thing is really like innocent and pure in a way that really kind of resonated with me. I think that it's pretty well put together. If it's not your thing, great, but I think it's very harmless in that sense. I don't, sometimes when we watch these things aimed at tweens, I think us crotchety old horror fans get like amped up being like, oh, this is like a disgrace to horror, like it blah blah blah. But in this case, I feel like it's actually, like I said, it's great like training wheels horror. It's got adult themes, it's doing spooky stuff really well, it's paying respect to these kind of classic myth, urban legend kind of stories. It's a lot of fun. My only real complaint is I think it takes a little long to get going for me, like, and I didn't really and partially because I wasn't sure. It took me a long time to figure out that this wasn't just a wraparound story or like a first story, because the pacing of the first 20 minutes, I'm almost thinking like, oh, this could have been the first story. So I was a little confused. But once they're really like hot on the trail, once the first friend kind of bites it and they kind of start really investigating things and they're traveling around, like that's really where it picks up for me, and it leads to some of the spookier sequences. Everything in the sheriff's office or the prison I thought was great, the little jail there and the hospital. So I was surprised. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. And I think like if you like stuff like that has like it's got great spooky time fall atmosphere. Like it's set on, some of it's set on Halloween, small town Americana Halloween. Like that stuff's really
For
if you
people who continue to obsess about trick or treat.
Yeah, if you get way into that stuff, like this is really fun. If you can just kind of like not expect something super scary, get into like a little pure innocent childhood horror movie, this is like right up your alley, I think.
Eric, did you want to know what I thought? Or I know you're excited about a movie when you skip me in the review sequence.
It's fine. You can tell us.
So, in lieu of giving my opinion, I'll give it. But I think it's actually because we didn't talk about it up front. The team that made this movie. So the like sort of like two people that you will see the most in coverage are the director Andre Avredal. There's like an O with a slash through it. Maybe Shelton knows how to pronounce that.
Oh, he's one of your people, John.
Well, Shelton's more of the linguist here, so I defer to him on these issues. But so he's the director. He directed Troll Hunter. He directed something else that I am now forgetting that was also sweet. But then Guillermo del Toro, Guillermo, he is also sort of the producer, credited as a screenwriter here. So the most interesting thing to me, though, is that the story credits go to Dunstan and Melton, Marcus and Patrick, who wrote Feast.
Those guys.
Oh, wow.
Well,
They wrote
they were
wrote
the
Feast, and
guys.
then like didn't they write a bunch of garbagey Saw sequels too?
Correct. They wrote The Collector. If you remember The Collector. So they've got this like pretty, I mean, I would almost say grindhousey horror aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then, but this is the kicker, to finish the screenplay. So they're credited with the story, and then the screenplay credit goes to Dan Hagerman and Kevin Hagerman, who are the guys who wrote the Lego movie.
Huh.
So
What a
it's
strange combination of people.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, and so I don't know. I do think all that to say, I think everything you guys said is like totally fair, and I probably end up a little more negative on this. I do think Eric's point, the thing that Eric was just saying around about the confusion around whether there was a wraparound, the structure of this thing takes a while to emerge, and once it does, I agree that I was like totally on board. I guess I vacillate between.
I also
and I
think
think-
the fact that question even comes up comes from the fact that we're like very well versed horror fans and we understand what an anthology film is. I think your average
No.
person doesn't even know what an anthology film is, and so because anthology films are like largely the territory of like 80s and 90s horror. Like they don't even
Well,
really exist in the
and
same
That's
way.
really been a
Festivals.
high-profile one since what, VHS?
There's
Yeah.
every couple
There
years,
was
right?
XX a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
but like,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, your
Those aren't
mainstream,
big
a
theatrical releases.
mainstream movie fan has probably, unless they've seen like, would you count like those Valentine's movies or whatever the hell? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Are
I
you
guess
saying ABCs of Death and ABCs of Death 2 were not
Well,
mainstream films?
what I'm saying is, I just think that, and I think in my head, I just assumed it was an anthology because I think people treated it that way. But
Well,
that's,
it's based on an anthology of books.
I just
or of
think
stories.
I just think that's baggage that we bring to it that your average viewer wouldn't.
All right, that's totally fair. Again, what I was getting at is like I go back and forth between thinking the screenplay is an achievement for what they accomplished in stitching together completely unconnected stories that were all hung under this banner in the book, and then like look, like there's just it's like it's uneven, like it's unevenly paced. There's some wonky stuff going on. I agree. I ended up having fun. So like the what's he called, Sophie, the knee tied
goatee walker.
Yeah, like that whole segment when they're like locked in the prison, like there's a lot of set pieces that are great, and when they're happening, I was like totally in for them, and then I was kind of like, all right, like now they're gonna have to like come up with some other like excuse, like excuse to
like an
go.
anthology film.
I don't know.
right?
I just think,
Yes.
right, but that's kind of what's cool about it is like, or weird. It's weird about it, and I enjoy it personally. Is that it's almost a hybrid. Like it
Yeah.
almost is still an anthology film because of the set piece way that they set each one of those up, and the fact that they're literally tied to a story in the book. And like,
Yeah.
I kind of liked the kind of chaos of the fact that any given scene could just be some totally new banana shit that's just gonna like happen to a character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think my problem, like the wraparound story, I thought was the weakest. It was just the most conventional. It was very like obvious where it was going to go. The ending kind of just fizzled out.
Hold on, let's come back to the ending because like
I'm not gonna get into it now, but
well, and
I was like, oh, this is okay. I
I
guess
mean,
so.
one of the comments I made, I think over email that I don't know, people push back on a little bit, but I will cling to because that is my way. To me, this movie did feel like they had watched it, or they were like familiar with the beats of it and how successful that film was, and they like the wraparound story. To your point, John, is like it's almost exactly the same, right? Like you've got the like outcast kids, and then they have like the friend who's like from out of town. Like there's all these like the beats of that are very similar to it, and even the like each kid having his own scary thing to confront, it matches somewhat with the. I mean, look, like
It's a lot more
It's
like lighthearted though, which is kind of like why I feel like
Yeah.
I don't know, like the whole thing with the fucking finger, the thumb in the stew, that was hilarious, or the toe or whatever.
That's
it
one of the
was.
stories that I remember.
But that was a
story.
really
Oh, yeah.
funny, like, and that's kind of what is interesting about the tone of this movie is like, that's a pretty funny scene, and it ends with the kid dying, also getting killed or disappearing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I kept trying. It's not. I'm not trying to like excuse some of the plotting issues. Although I think like it was interesting for me because I went into this actually like I didn't feel well that day. I was like still getting over this cold, and I kind of expected to go in and hate whatever I saw regardless. Like I just knew I was in one of those moods, and it managed to win me over anyway. And a lot of it just has to do with the tone and kind of the innocence of the whole thing. And I was really trying to like, once I got in and I oriented myself, I was really trying to just approach this from like a slightly less jaded point of view, because I think like your average audience for this, and certainly we have our own audience, and so I think it's fair to like tell our audience what we think they may feel about this, or if you know what I mean, if they should give it a shot. But I'm also trying to think like there's this whole other audience for this thing. Some people are going to discover this movie as kids, and like it's going to be a favorite when they grow up. You know what I mean?
I'm like excited to show this to my kids.
Yeah,
now
100%.
My 5-year-old
At a certain age.
Well, no, but he's like
Tomorrow.
he's the most scared child you will ever, like he can't handle like an episode of My Little Pony with his sister. Like he gets freaked out on like basically everything. My 3-year-old would be like she's like ready to go. Like she'll turn
I mean,
5
I
and
was
be
going to
like,
say
"Okay,
like a
well,
really cool 10-year-old maybe. Like it's pretty, I think it would be pretty scary for a kid. Like, and it's a fairly graphic at times, like with the
Fair.
monster stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you were showing Mark like straight up, maniac cop when he was like.
Yeah, but I
7.
wasn't an adult. I was like 12 years old. I didn't have any responsibility.
But for me, I mean, the way they put this wrapper around this story, and you've taken something that's so iconic because so many people have read, and it's a part of so many people's, growing up, discovering horror and things like that. At least it was for me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. The fact that they invented this wrapper around it, and it's actually, kind of cohesive and everything, it's fairly impressive because typically somebody takes, I mean, despite all the faults that we found in this, I've not heard anybody screaming they've killed my childhood.
No,
It's
yeah.
everything from Ghostbusters to, anything else that comes out, especially in today's climate. That's fairly impressive.
I don't know.
Well,
this
and
is
I
not
think-
of that level of.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
fair. It's,
Well,
it's a fair.
plus, let's be clear, this movie didn't only have women in it, and so there was no reason for it to ruin anyone's childhood. But,
Boom.
but I like, to Casey's point, I liked the wraparound story, and to me, I think I probably, when we get to the point where we're discussing the ending, I'm gonna agree with you all that the ending just like kind of it was bad. The ending was bad. But for
it
me,
wasn't
like
an ending. The movie didn't
right,
end.
right. But like,
Well,
to
it does
me,
end. They're
the
just trying to set
wraparound
up a sequel.
story- But I'm talking even before that, like the way what they discover at the end, to me, like didn't really work. But I think the wraparound story leading up to that felt like it could have been a story that was in the books.
Yeah.
And so I thought it worked tonally well with the other stories.
Can I make one before we get to the ending? I just want to there's one sort of brief tangent I want to go on, which is this movie deploys a narrative structure that is, and maybe we've talked about this. I'm sure there's like a supercut on YouTube or something, or maybe there's not, and we should do it. But it's the narrative structure that virtually every child or kids focus horror movie deploys, which is that there is a spirit. And the spirit isn't bad. It's just sad or angry about something. And that the people need to figure out what's bothering the spirit. And then everything.
I mean, in a normal horror movie, I hate that because in a normal horror movie, like, I want to be scared. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't find that scary. I guess, like, I did in this, I sort of excused it because it's something different. Like, this
I
movie.
wasn't
every
making-
ghost story ever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
alright,
for the most part.
Just
I
to
mean,
be clear,
that's every single ghost story in existence.
well,
Like,
but John, I'm
the
talking.
ghost needs some kind of thing for resolution, and then
Yes,
and then
I
they
guess
go away.
but I feel like for the kids focused stuff, it's and maybe look like I'm not even making a qualitative judgment one way or the other because I agree like it's like done fine here. It's more that like this movie, the one that I always think about is Paranorman because I love Paranorman, but like it's the exact same plot. And John, you're right. Like every ghost movie is like that, but like most adult films or like they like problematize it a little. Like they like try to do something like you know, they just go in slightly different direction or whatever, the ghost turns out to actually be evil and it isn't just like there's like a lot of ways you can go and sort of make it work. You're right, like and there's like we could have the longer argument about like all horror is about like something bad happening and then you have to like make the bad thing not bad anymore and society can go on, like it's but yeah. So it was just like this to me was like it was pretty like it was pretty straight down the middle. But I do think, to Eric's point, like the reason you have to go that direction is if you're going to then introduce all these other sort of like essentially anthology elements, like you have to have a film that's like pretty easy to follow and not gonna.
It's definitely a little intricate because there's like a bunch of things going on, right? Like each of the kids kind of has their own. Well, not really. It's more like there's this main thing with the girl and the guy from out of town, and then like the sister kind of, and the jock, and then it's like. There's also this whole thing with the ghost and the girl in the house, and then each story kind of wrapping into that, and then there's a lot, and then you got the guy from Shawshank Redemption running around being a racist cop,
and we have
I was like, didn't that guy get murdered in prison? Why is he a sheriff in this town?
We have not gotten to the magical black lady either.
I was just about to bring that up.
Did you catch who that was?
Because I think we should talk about.
Did you catch who that was? Well, John wouldn't know this, but she was the villain on a season of Orange Is the New Black.
Yeah. No, I saw that season.
Oh, okay.
She was. It's the same production company. It's called they're called like Studio One or something like that. But yeah, I did see that.
I mean, but now I was also confused as to who she was. Was she supposed to be the sister of the girl in the?
I thought
she was like the daughter of the maid. It seemed like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was the one that was the same age as
Okay.
the.
I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely a little confused about that kind of entire plot line. But
well, yeah, I mean, like that, and that sort of to me is what makes it so egregious. Not that it wouldn't be bad enough to just be. So I guess for those of you that hadn't seen the movie yet, they go to talk to this woman who I don't even remember how they get to talk to her. Like they see her name somewhere, or
I don't remember.
Yeah,
either.
it's in like some of the newspaper clippings that,
Okay.
Yeah, it was
that
after the
she was
library.
fired, that the mom was fired. Like it's very strange. Like what's in the newspaper back
So
then.
they go talk to this woman to try to get answers about what the ghost might be angry about. And the woman that they go talk to is a blind black woman with like her head is like a big like knot of dreadlocks, and she's blind, and she has a really bad accent. And it just like I was so angry leaving the movie because it just felt like that is a trope that seems like one that people are starting to have some kind of awareness of as not being a great idea, and then they're like, we're gonna do the most egregious version of it, and also that plot arc was completely unnecessary.
The reason though,
they could have gotten that information any other way.
The reason why
there was no reason for that character to even exist.
The reason why it's so bad is because the kids find her and they immediately are like, "Do you know magic?" And I was like, "Oh my god, they actually said the word."
They asked if she knows black magic or some shit.
And there's no other. I don't think there's any other black characters in the entire film.
No,
well, except her daughter, who's like, sometimes my mom gets a little crazy.
I don't think I caught the black magic part.
They may have asked the daughter about black magic.
No, that felt to me like something from like a previous version of the script that somehow they left in
from the 60s.
Maybe originally she was like telling the stories or something. That would make a little more sense because like that whole section had no real point.
Yeah. Exactly. There was no reason for it whatsoever. They could have. There's a million different ways they could have got there. I dug the idea of the story of the family, the Bellows family, and why they were hiding Sarah, and what was happening with their paper mill and everything like that. But we didn't need the magic black lady.
Yeah.
I mean, she did sing the "Worms Crawl In, the Worms Crawl Out" song, so that was
cool.
But like the music box played it anyway, so like.
The music box was scary, by the way. That music, I was like thinking about that music the other day. It just like popped into my head. It was super weird.
Yeah, it's because it's the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, and it's terrifying.
Is that like a real song? Should I know that? Oh.
Yeah, and it was in they talk about it in the book.
Okay, it's in the book.
Like, how did we all know what the tune was from reading it in a book?
I don't know.
That's like burned into my brain.
I didn't.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I heard the tune on the music box, and I was like, oh my god. But like, why do I know that's the tune if I read it?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not part of it. That's like the American folklore part of this, the whole scary stories thing that's going on. Because I mean, my mom didn't sing that to me when I was growing up, but I definitely heard it growing up.
Your mom sang that to you, like
I didn't.
In a much darker place.
I didn't read the book or
my
know
mom's
the song.
pretty much Snow White, so not too worried.
Books with sounds. What's a book with sounds?
An audiobook?
An audiobook? Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, ultimately, though, and we've talked about this topic a lot throughout tonight, but like the original book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, was kind of what got me to realize at a young age, hey, scary stories are cool and it's fun to be scared. And if they made a movie that does the same thing for that same type of age group or a little bit older, who cares? Go for it.
In 20 years,
true.
In 20 years, they're gonna make a sequel called "Creepypastas to Tell in the Dark."
Oh
yeah, probably.
Creepypastas to read on your phone.
Right. So it's not even dark anymore because you're got your phone on.
So can we do the ending really quick?
Yes.
I know Eric's like getting a little antsy here. So
what makes you say that?
I'm trying to think of I don't even remember it. So whatever. I don't remember exactly even what leads up to it, but the final scene in the film is the daughter and Ramon, and then the sister, who was like not involved with him at all until she gets the spiders exploding out of her face.
Yes.
They're driving. I think, is Dean Norris driving them? They're in his truck. And
I don't think Ramon was there because he went off to the army.
He went to the military.
You're right.
He went to Vietnam.
He
learned
went to get
courage.
killed. You're right. The draft and the dodging and whatnot. No, but it literally is like, I'm gonna try. I wish I could have thought through exactly what you said, but it's something along the lines of, this round of scary stories is over, but there will be more scary stories to come, or something like that. It's just like,
yeah, it's like they literally, they straight up wide opening for sequel at the end, like
Well,
going
yeah, it was
hard.
Well, they talk about rescuing their friends because, like,
yeah.
I don't know if I guess like the bully maybe got killed, but the other characters, nobody else really got killed.
Well, the
They just,
bully
like,
got turned into the
disappeared?
scarecrow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
presumably they're in some other, like, they're in the Upside Down or something.
And Chuck got hugged to death.
You know what
The
it made me?
further-
You know, a movie that whole kind of thread made me think of was Ernest Scared Stupid. Because the whole deal with that movie is the trolls like capture kids and turn them into little wooden statues, and at the end he rescues
Yeah.
all of them.
Well, so here's one of my questions, because Shelton just read the first book. Are all of the stories in this movie in just the first book, or did they also go to the second
No,
book?
they're all spread, and a lot of the stories are like they'll take like a piece of one story and a piece of another story, or like because like the Toe story is like a completely separate story, and then the monster that comes after him is an illustration from a completely different story. So they just kind of like put it all in a blender and just like pulled out pieces, and
Okay,
I don't think they really
but
told any of the stories like
I thought maybe
exactly
if they,
as they are in the book.
well, and if they were being like super savvy about it, if they had actually kept this to just the first book, and then it was like, now they're gonna do the next movie's literally gonna be called More Scary Stories Told in the Dark. It almost has to be, because the movie, look, I mean, the movie did pretty well for a
What about
August
what about
middle of the summer release.
what about
you know?
I saw it in
scarier?
a packed theater.
What about even scarier stories to tell in the dark?
Well,
Oh.
we were
I don't
talking
think I
about.
can handle that.
That's a pretty good title, is all I'm saying.
Well, it was Scary Stories, More Scary Stories. I think the third one was just called Scary Stories 3, and
I
it
know.
had a big old red 3 in the middle of it, if I remember.
I
So
know, I know
Which
what
one
you
had
did.
the
in
terrifying
dark.
clown mask on the cover? Do you guys remember that?
I think that was the third one.
It's like a clown
Vaguely.
head with like a very big red nose. So creepy.
See,
Yeah.
I remember the first one for sure. Maybe the second, and the third one. I know
There
I
was
didn't read
already an
because I think
article,
I was
like-
in high school by then.
There was an article after opening weekend of they were already talking about sequel, which doesn't surprise me now that I've seen it, and they wanted to do
Yeah.
that, but it
Oh,
sounds
well,
like
and, like,
it did
it-
well enough.
Yeah, it did quite well. And look, like that. I mean,
It's an endless franchise. I mean,
yeah,
you
they
can-
could run this thing for forever. So
Oh yeah, I think the biggest disappointing for the ending we got in this movie for me is I was actually impressed because I was expecting all the way up as we're building up to the big final climax that they would figure out the problem with Sarah Bellows and all of their friends would come back magically and everything would be resolved and everything would be happy, and they didn't do that. And so I was really impressed they didn't go with the happy ending.
yeah.
But then they tacked on the
They kicked
bullshit
it to the
of
sequel.
we
Yeah.
can get them back maybe in the
Yeah.
next movie, and that kind of ruined it.
I hope Ramon comes back. I liked Ramon.
Yeah, Ramon was cool. I mean, all the acting was good. I thought the kids were good. Everything with like Hank, Dean Norris, who I can only know as Uncle Daddy now after
Oh.
watching Claws.
Yes,
I
had
gotta-
the same.
I gotta tell you,
Yes.
man, Dean Norris is like tired father who just wants to sit in front of the TV at night. He had a real energy I was relating to in this movie that
Yes,
Big
hit
Dad
too
energy.
close
it
to
was a
home for
little
you.
dark for me. Yeah.
he was great, but that was another element of the story they didn't do anything with. That Stella's mom took off, and it wasn't her fault. And they
Oh,
kind
that
of put it
to
out there,
me-
and it didn't have any effect at all on the story.
Yeah, to me, that was like one of the most awkward sequences when they have that phone call, because it's like, who fucking cares? Like, guys, you didn't
Yeah.
earn that scene at all. I do think a lot of that is the sort of like Melton Dunstan effect or whatever. I mean, you think about those Saw movies they wrote and how freaking convoluted those movies got. Like, this still looks like very coherent by comparison. So I don't know.
Dope.
Good times.
Scurry stories to tell in the dork side. All right, guys. Would you recommend this movie, Sophie?
I would. I thought it was really fun.
John?
No.
Casey?
Yes, I enjoyed it.
Shelton?
Yeah, you can pick it apart, but you know, it's for kids. Maybe not theater, but yeah, if you got a kid to show it to, go for it.
Yeah, I think this movie is pure and innocent in a way that kids' movies aren't, while also like kind of I think having some respect for the audience by trying to delve into some deeper themes. If you can get into kids' movies that have nice like spooky time Halloween atmosphere, I think this is like definitely worth a watch. And obviously, if you loved the stories, like check the movie out. You know what I mean? Since apparently I'm the only one, John. I'm the only
You may
illiterate
be.
person.
Still learning to read.
There we go. I've been reading old Fangorias, and I found a letter. I tweeted this. I found a letter from 1993, and this dude is like, I'm so glad Halloween 6 is going to come out. It's going to answer all the unanswered questions from Halloween 5. And I was like, oh, God. I wanted to, like,
Poor guy.
I wanted to go back in time or just, like, try to find this guy and go give him a hug. Because I'm just like neither of us ever got those answers. And he was just, like, so excited. And he's like, they swear the script is going to be good this time. And I'm just like, no, it's not, dude. I'm sorry.
Dan L. from Albuquerque.
Oh,
I feel
boy.
you, brother.
Buddy. Buddy.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that
boy.
hit me hard, John. But it's fun. There's a huge feature-length article in this one I'm writing on, reading on Man's Best Friend with Lance Henriksen. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It's like a
Yeah, sure have.
killer science experiment dog movie.
Yeah, when animals attack.
Exactly. All right, guys. Scary stories. Check it out. Do a quick break and do some fan mail.
When there's no peace for the dead, there's no escape for the living.
Is it serious?
Is dead serious?
Just when you thought it was safe to be dead. Return of the Living Dead, Part 2. Rated R. Starts Friday. Check newspapers for theaters and showtimes.
Hi, I'm Tom Savini, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. Just when you thought it was safe to be dead, John. It's such a good line. I love that.
Pretty good.
John, new music coming to BGH soon. You excited, buddy?
Pretty excited.
Pretty excited. I'm just waiting on the mysterious Bloody Good Horror voice guy to get back to me.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll be in business. Fun times. Sophie,
Yeah,
you wanted to talk about Tweet with BGH?
I sure do. So for those of you that didn't hear on the show last week, the Tweet with BGH for August is going to be a super special one. I will be doing Tweet with BGH from my 30th birthday party. And so if anybody would like to play along and virtually join that birthday party, you can play Tweet with BGH on us, with us. The game, the drinking game, will go up Thursday of this week. We're going to be watching Idle Hands.
Oh, God, I love that.
That's going to be Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern. That's Saturday the 24th of August at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can follow myself and Spencer and Evan, and also just use the hashtag #BGH. We should have a pretty big group. So
Idle Hands.
everybody come play.
Idle Hands is all time for me. All time favorite
It is good stuff.
movie.
And I
period.
can't overstate, I've never seen it. I'm super excited.
It is like
I picked this movie because when I was in 9th grade and we had like a 8th graders, you're in high school now, we're gonna have a bonding experience. We had to write we had to fill out a paper of answer different questions, and they would ask and say who do you think this is? And then one of the ones they chose was, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Married to Seth Green. That was my answer.
Wow. I was not un-Seth Green at that age.
It did not come to pass, unfortunately, but I'm super pumped to watch this movie that I've never seen.
It's really funny. It's a really fantastic 90s time capsule. It's a good horror comedy. This probably won't excite you as much as it does me, but young Jessica Alba is in this movie.
I am aware of that. It doesn't do
that's
as much for me as young Devon Sawa and young Seth Green.
The look of recognition on Shelton's face just now was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh.
Shelton going, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
let's
do
just
remember
say
this
staring-
movie.
If you aren't a patron and you can't watch, you just missed Shelton staring wistfully into the distance as he remembered young
Let's just
Jessica
say a
Alba.
lifetime of Jessica Alba appreciation was born for me from this movie.
Right there with you.
All right.
It's really
Pull
good.
yourself together.
I'm
here.
text me with your thoughts, Sophie, when it's over.
Well, this is, if I
You know,
remember.
you can like read them on Twitter, Eric.
Well,
We're
I'm gonna
doing it at a
be.
reasonable hour.
I'm gonna be on vacation. I'm gonna be out
Eric,
of town.
this I
with
do
no
wonder,
Twitter.
Eric. This is the movie. This is one of those rare movies that came out when we were basically the same age as the characters are supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
it's the same with like The Faculty. You know,
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
or
that-
like
that
another
helps.
Seth Green movie that I love, Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh,
Oh,
so
so good.
freaking good.
It's like right in
Guys,
that.
my local theater is showing The Faculty in October, and I'm super
Oh, nice.
chuffed to go
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So check out Idle Hands if you haven't seen it. Highly recommend it. And check it out with Tweet the BGH.
There you go.
How do they
Do that.
find you guys? Like if they're looking for you to do this,
What?
how,
On
how do they
Twitter,
find you? No,
presumably?
like who
Oh, yeah.
who should they follow?
You can
Like what-
follow me on Twitter. There's also a specific Twitter account you can follow, which is at BGH New Class Live. The easiest thing to do though would be to just follow the hashtag tweet with BGH. Everybody will tag their tweets with that. And
Perfect.
like I said, we start about 5 p.m. on Saturday, so the tweets will be flooding in.
Awesome. Very exciting.
Come
I had
follow.
one more thing I want to mention. John, do you remember I'm a movie star now?
Oh yeah. I haven't watched it.
I have
yet,
my
but
own
I
I have my own
Did
IMDb page. We should check it to see if I'm trending this week.
yeah. Where are you at? Where you're at?
Yeah.
Are you in the 500,000s or
I'm
like
pretty-
did you increase to the 300,000?
I'm pretty curious. Anyway, so I've been talking about this for a while, but I was in this documentary, John. It's called Survival of the Film Freaks. It is a movie about the sort of past, present, and future of cult cinema.
Mhm.
I know. So anyway, people have been asking how they can see it. It is now available on Amazon Prime. I believe you can buy it digitally or rent it digitally, which is awesome. So you can go check it out. I highly recommend it, not just because I'm in it. It's a very entertaining documentary. I know we've had some slackers check it out and say they enjoyed it. So you should.
I watched it. It was quite good.
I was amused when someone posted a picture of you from the movie and you had like a lot more hair.
I had hair.
that-
Yeah,
that
it was
made
like
me
a few
just-
months before I decided to just start buzzing it all off. It is now.
You're still making a go out of it.
It's now a memorial to my former self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were good about it. when
I
you
also
posted
like
the picture.
I kind of like I didn't dress up, but I wore like a button-up shirt. I was trying to look like nicer. It's a movie. Everyone else, predictably, right? Everyone else is just in like their ratty black horror shirts, and I'm just like, well, hello, mister. I got my buttons here.
Yeah, you're like the stuff shirt. That's like how weird of a movie it is. Like you're the start shirt, dude.
You look like you're cosplaying as like the cool, approachable professor, and
Oh,
everyone
okay.
else
I was-
like,
that's-
didn't get
That's
the memo.
kind of what I was going for, so I'll take that. I'll take
Nice.
it.
That's cool.
I'm on my IMDb here. How do I click C rank? Oh no, I'm down 355,000 this week.
It's rough.
That's real rough.
Wait,
How many people are there on
We gotta-
IMDb?
Yeah, we got to get you a bot that just like searches your name a lot, and then presumably you'll kind of.
is
move
that
up
a
in the
thing?
ranks.
We
I
have
have no idea.
we know a bunch of computer people. Can somebody work that up for me?
Yeah, let's see.
We also got to give me
Uh,
some more credits. Like put me in your movies. I'll do it. Just pay me.
Oh, it's that easy actually.
that's what I
That's how that's how Leo got his start.
Yo.
Hey, put me in that movie.
Hey John, what do we got on Twitter?
Some tweets. We got some tweets. No BGH classics, which that's okay. People, everyone's on vacation. I get it.
I see how it is.
We have. I will say, I'll take this as an opportunity with no classics to welcome. We have a lot of new patrons. We had a nice uptick in patrons, which we greatly appreciate. We
that's
appreciate
great.
all our patrons. We appreciate all of you listening. But thanks for supporting the show. Okay, SBGH. First one comes to us from Jason Stork, JM Stork. When talking about potential sequels to Brightburn, you guys didn't address the implied existence of other evil Justice League characters in the Michael Rooker scene. Thoughts on an evil Wonder Woman or evil Aquaman as a sequel? Spoiler alert. I mean, some of us haven't watched it.
I don't really have any opinions on regular
I've
Aquaman.
watched it twice and I don't even know what he's talking about.
Although I
I
will.
get, like, there's a There's an
It's
end
the
credits.
credits. Yeah,
that was
it's
my
the
favorite part
credits
of the
scene.
movie.
Wait, like the
That
part
was.
during the credit sequence where Michael Rooker's talking?
Yes.
No, I remember that. I just don't remember there being like any reference to other.
Oh, he talks about like a fish person who's killed some people,
Yeah.
and like a lady who strangles some people with a lasso. And it even throws in. You remember that
Oh.
movie Super with
Yeah,
Rainn
Rainn
Wilson?
Yeah.
It throws his picture in there because that's also one of the gun. Well, that was Sean Gunn, I guess.
Huh.
But yeah,
I just know that my daughter's obsessed with Little Mermaid right now, and when that movie started coming out, it would be in Redbox or you'd see standees. Anytime you'd walk by it, she'd point and she'd go, "It's King Triton," because he just looks like Little Mermaid's father.
Yeah.
She'd get all
kind
excited.
of.
I mean, he's got a. She knew what like the Triton was. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like,
the
that's
trident.
That's the deal. He's got a beard. You know. Yeah,
all
Triton.
right, fair. Okay, I'll cut her some slack. How are you excited for the real life version of King Triton? Because I'm kind of not looking forward to this
I don't care.
human mermaid situation. But
I will say it's funny. Like I hadn't seen the Little Mermaid in probably 25 years at least when we watched it with her recently. The animation's like kind of horrifying in that movie. It's like
oh yeah, there's some scary stuff there.
I don't know if it's the same guy, but it reminded me a lot of the animation in that crazy batshit heavy metal esque Disney thing that we reviewed with what the hell's the name of that movie?
Yeah, Black Cauldron.
But this very like I think of like Lion King.
Heavy metal is a little strong. But
I think I loop in like Little Mermaid with the Lion King and Aladdin, where they were actually like refining that style, and it was getting brighter, a little more colorful, and more like I don't know, like refined.
Yeah,
but if you like Little Mermaid
Little
Mermaid is like surprisingly primitive. I guess in my head, like it wasn't as of that updated style as I thought it was, and it's like when they zoom in on her face. Like the lines wiggle and her eyes like get bigger and small. It's like literally it was like being on an acid trip. It's insane.
I mean, I don't know. People know more about Disney than I do. Can correct me. I believe when Katzenberg took over, Little Mermaid was already in production, so it's like it's the one that he didn't do all of.
That would make sense. So probably all the same animation team and stuff.
Yeah, like he was there when it got released, but it wasn't like fully under his watch. But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's how it played out. But yeah, all right. Next one. This is an interesting one. We could go pretty deep here, but we'll see. Slanderous Gent at Slanderous Gent. He says, "Hey guys, so after hearing the brief discussion of weed during the Brightburn episode, which I haven't listened to, so I'm kind of like curious to know what the hell you guys are getting on about. I'm curious on the crew's thoughts on weed and its legalization. Here in the UK, it's kind of weird due to its widespread use, despite still being completely illegal. Thoughts?"
As a person who lives in a legal state, I'll just say it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pro weed being legal. I mean, people are going to use it either way, so
it's pretty.
It just seems ridiculous to put so many people in prison for something that is fine.
It is pretty expensive, and at least here, like there aren't that many stores, so you have to you got to really make a trip out of it because you're probably gonna end up waiting in a line. But works pretty good. There's also weird things where like it's illegal on the federal level, so these places can't deposit any of their money in a bank, and so I heard a friend told me, John, that like you go in there and it's cash and they'll technically take a card, but it's all they're doing is like swiping an ATM for you because they can't actually just like take a credit card transaction. So it's like weird. It's still operating in this weird gray space, but it's pretty sweet.
Well, so like I will tell a very quick story. When I was in California at the beginning of July for my brother's wedding, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, I used a weed delivery service. So it was remarkably convenient because you punch some buttons on your app on your phone, and then a guy shows up 20 minutes later with a bunch of weed for you.
Yeah, they're I think they're kind of.
I used to do that in college. I mean, that's nothing new.
The wheels are in motion to green light delivery here, but it hasn't happened yet.
So, but this is where, like, to your point, Eric, like I actually, again, if people want to get into it, I can. But I actually like interviewed with a couple marijuana companies when I was looking at jobs not that long ago.
That's great.
And yeah, like the weed delivery situation is take the like regular weed distribution situation, and then weed delivery is like 10x more complicated because like there aren't even laws in most of the states around like what is and isn't legal around delivery. In California, they do have some, and like the whole thing is
You've
just,
also got security concerns, which a lot of it is a big issue with a lot of it.
Right.
yeah. I'll end because again, I actually like have spent some time reading and like looking at this stuff and consuming a little. I have friends, so like I'm kind of like out of the game. I have 3 kids. Like I can't, unfortunately, as much as I would like to, I don't, take part as much.
It's
I
medicine,
have
John.
friends. Well, I have friends in California who are like fairly regular still, and they actually still use their black market distributor because they feel like if you're a very frequent weed user, a lot of folks don't like the legal distribution because there's all kinds of regulations that essentially ruin the product or degrade the product. So stuff that you would buy in a store in California is as much as like 3 months old. It has to essentially sit on a shelf for 3 months to
Interesting.
be able to be sold. So if you want fresh product, like just picked, you have to get it through the black market. So there's still all this like really weird stuff going on.
Well, you
I
also
mean, like,
got taxes, which for some people is a lot to absorb. Like it's
Yeah.
literally taxed at 20% here.
oh,
If this is something that you're interested in at all, though, I would recommend there's a really interesting mini docuseries on Netflix called Murder Mountain that talks about this like sort of mountainous area in California in the Green Triangle where a lot of weed is grown, and it's sort of covering like a lot of the sort of like perceived and real outlaw culture within that space. But they interview a lot of people who grow marijuana who sort of talk about, some of them have gone legit and some haven't, and they talk about pros and cons, like if you're a grower, for whether or not it being legal is a helpful thing. And I found it really interesting.
you had me at murder. So
There's also some true crimey stuff involved,
there
obviously.
you go. Yeah, good question. Maybe y'all will get there in the UK, though with everything else going on over there, I suspect not. CO Old School. This is our friend CO_W Flanagan. So, he tends to send in some wacky tweets. I'm just going to read this as is. And there's a picture that goes with it that kind of explains a lot of where he's going. He says, "What was your favorite toy when you was just a kid? Mine was the ET fingering light. So many fond memories running around the neighborhood, lightly fingering the hell out of everything in sight. Much love." And he posts a picture of the ET finger light, which
You want to give it to me? I'll put it in the video.
yeah, stand by. How do I think
Or just shoot the link. I can grab it.
Yes. I believe that'll take you right to the photo. I feel like this almost has to be fake, because if it's real, it's just outrageous.
I don't know. Of course that was real. It was ET. Oh my
Oh,
god.
wow.
That's
Dude,
oh
but,
no,
like,
that's
come
real,
on.
dude. That's totally real.
It looks a little.
Oh, it's way too big. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
ET had long fingers, John.
It's from Knickerbocker Toys.
Yeah.
Of course.
John, ET had long fingers. He's an extraterrestrial.
It was not licensed. It was a not licensed ET toy, sold only overseas.
I don't know what
Is
you're.
that true, or did you just make it up?
I just made that up.
This is
but-
completely innocent, John. I don't know what you're trying to make out of this, but.
Oh, apparently it was recalled, you guys. I wonder why.
Does anyone want to chime in with a favorite toy?
anything,
that wasn't the ET
anything that had to do with Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I
I was a
had
big
lot
Ninja
of
Turtles kid.
yeah.
I liked Michelangelo because he had nunchucks.
I love GI Joes. I mean,
Oh, G.I. Joe was the shit.
yeah, I'm talking the like late '80s, early '90s GI Joes, not the huge like old school
Right.
joints. But
I mean, I know you're not
uh,
70, so
well,
those
yeah,
were from
they
like
were-
the
they were
60s.
fun. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm in the wrong audience to say this, because probably none of you had these, but I loved Sky
We're in college
Dancers. I loved Sky Dancers, which were like basically Barbies that had wings, and they were posed in such a way that you put them on a stand and pull a cord really fast, and
Yep.
they would spin and take off like a helicopter, which like they were fun to play with, but
So they're
also
dangerous.
made wonderful projectiles to like shoot at your siblings.
Well, it's so now there's like they were around when we were little, but there's these toys because my son was asking for them the other day. They're like the Spin Fighters, and that was like the girl version of the Spin Fighters. I feel like.
Got it. And they had their own cartoon, which I had several episodes of.
There you go. Okay, we'll keep this rolling for Eric. Richard Garcia at NMS You Rich. Hey guys, I'm thinking of taking a 30-day break from booze. Any tips? I work at a liquor store and bar back at concerts, so it's kind of always in my face. Whew.
Jesus.
Might I refer you to our first question about weed?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, so I've taken a couple 30-day breaks, but it was always when I was like running a lot, like when I was basically marathon training, and you definitely, I think, Eric, your broader point, like some replacement is helpful. I mean, working around it is going to be really brutal.
I find
like,
it's good for me if I'm trying not to drink, just to have something in my hand, like some kind of water receptacle, or just because a lot of it's just that like you know what I'm trying to say.
I go like tea. I go seltzer. I need something that's not water because I need there to be like hey, it's I'm not just having a water here, like I don't know, but yeah, it's.
You need like that commercial voiceover in your head that's gonna tell you that it's cooler than water.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Go with soda. It's got to be better for you. I mean, as bad as it is. So, yeah, but good times. Next one, Craig at 4Color Craig. Thoughts on the Feld dog chomping at the bit to reprise Tommy Jarvis for the 13th Jason film?
So here's what happened here, John. Twitter update. So, who posted this originally? It was Kane Hodder, I think, because Kane Hodder is also going hard in the paint because he wants to be Jason again.
Because he's like
probably not
just doing the circuit.
Because he's
not
Kane
working
Hodder,
that much.
like this is kind of his jam. So then, I think Kane Hodder in the midst of saying like, "Oh, I want to be Jason again." Wouldn't it be cool? Is like he was like, I want to see, Jason fight survivors, and I think he tagged Corey Feldman in this. So then Corey Feldman, sensing an opportunity, just retweeted it and was like, "Yeah, this would be so cool. Bring me back." Blah blah blah. Like, dude, nobody's bringing cracked out ass Corey Feldman back for Friday. Like, when you look at how much money the Halloween remake made, like they're going legit. Once they figure this rights thing out with this, like somebody's going legit with this thing, whether it's Blumhouse or somebody else. Like, sorry, Corey Feldman, you're not fucking getting the role in this movie, bro. It's a joke.
I'm down for them throwing him a cameo.
Like we all saw that friggin' Lost Boys movie, right, dude? They're gonna keep you as far away from this thing as humanly possible.
Hey, look, if we can have two separate Chucky franchises,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
No, if we can have two separate Chucky franchises, then why don't we have like an actual like good Friday the 13th, and then just like
a
straight
bootleg,
up like straight to video like
that I could get in on. Yeah, exactly.
Film it at horror conventions, like
You guys had me. I'm sold.
Here's the thing: is like I just don't think they're gonna. Jason is so much harder to do than Michael Myers because. The reason why Halloween works is you still have Jamie Lee Curtis, and that gives you a really solid like character emotional core to build off of. If you try to do Friday the 13th like actually really serious or scary, you kind of lose what makes that whole thing so fun, which is like the no pun intended like the campiness of it and the like over the top 80s slasher action is what makes those movies so good. I mean, aside from the original, obviously. I just feel like you try to take it too seriously and you're kind of missing the point. Whereas Halloween was always a serious, like, scary thing,
No, your point about the, like, emotional heart and, like, actual, like, characters that you can hang the movie off of really matters.
You want to make a good Friday the 13th, like, go with the beginning of Friday the 13th Part 6, a similar idea where some dumb accident brings Jason back to life with, like, electricity from, like, lightning. And then make that movie. You know what I mean? Like make a spiritual sequel. Make a spiritual sequel to Part 6, and don't try to remake it and get all serious about it, and people will lose their shit over it.
Yeah.
That's free advice.
One.
That's free, John.
Lori Hubermail asks, saw a post lamenting discontinued candy, and man, it took me back. I miss Bonkers, Grape Hubba Bubba, and Garbage Candy. That last one I had never heard of.
I think I have. Bonkers, I loved Bonkers back in the day. They were really good.
Oh, yeah,
What was that?
Bonkers, they were like a chewy, fruity thing, and it was like it looked like bubblegum, but it wasn't. You could just chew it and swallow it, but they were like kind of sour. It was like one flavor on the outside and another one on the inside.
It had like
a gummy,
it had like a core to it.
Gummy
it was
chewy
bonkers
candy.
Yeah.
I remember one time finding this is a really weird story. I don't know. I remember finding a like half-open package of Bonkers like in somebody's yard once that had clearly been there for a little while, but like they were kind of individually wrapped. So I was like,
going.
I'm gonna eat these Bonkers, dude. I ate the shit out of those Bonkers.
Holy
Shit,
shit!
yard
jeez.
bonkers. Oh my god.
That's
Yard
like how like
bonkers.
some of those like PSAs about Halloween started. I'm pretty sure back in the
I
day.
checked them for razors.
Holy shit!
Do
Dude,
not eat the yard bonkers.
I feel like we're
Yard
having like
bonkers
a
are bad.
this is like a never have I ever episode going
Never
in here.
have
So
I
that's
ever
like
eat
crazy.
Bonkers out of the yard.
Wow, you just are we on the couch right now? Like what? You just went to like a dark.
They were kind of
place.
right next to a creek too that definitely had some kind of like industrial runoff situation. The suburbs are great, is what I'm trying to say.
That explains.
Were you by yourself? You were just like wandering.
I think at the
around?
time I was, but I don't remember. Maybe I was with my friend. He also loved
You-
Bonkers.
No, you never would have done that in front of another
Is
person.
I
this
don't-
your
That's
origin
totally a solo
story?
thing.
Yeah, your secret shame has finally been revealed.
I'm not ashamed at all. They were
Somebody's-
delicious and they were free.
Oh my god.
Free Bonkers, John. Do you understand? Free fucking Bonkers.
No, I mean,
Free
I'm not
pizza.
saying I definitely wouldn't, but it's.
Free pizza, John.
I like to believe that I'm the kind of person who wouldn't have eaten that candy.
I was like, I don't know, I
so-
was like 6 or something, dude. They looked delicious. They were good.
Eric, do you think kids today would understand the idea of a 6-year-old walking around alone and then finding
No.
candy on the ground and then eating it?
I don't at all. No. You know where? You know
I
what?
don't even
If you
let my kids eat the candy that's on the floor of our.
if all
apartment.
you do is
They
stay
drop
if all you do
it
is
out.
stay at home and watch Minecraft all day, you're never gonna find random Bonkers.
Yo, if kids found bonkers today, oh man, those things would be toxic.
From like 30 years ago, yeah,
Yeah.
not great. I don't know.
That's
I
why
bet,
you need to get like those black market bonkers so that they're like freshly picked.
I don't know, John. I'm sure they had enough preservatives in them. They're probably alive and kicking still.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
dear.
that is unreal. Okay,
Anyway,
that was our
Bonkers.
last question. So,
I mean, my favorite
I s-
candy is still around. My favorite candy is whatchamacallit, and that's still kicking.
wow,
Yeah.
that's a
It went away for a while though, didn't it?
super
Did it?
random.
It's still around.
I don't think it did.
Oh, it's the perfect
know.
combination of those flavors, John.
I
What's
still
in
buy
it?
the occasional zebra bar every now and then.
Oh, I've never
No
heard
What
of
idea
are
it.
you
what that
guys
is.
talking about?
You've never heard of a
Oh.
what? You've had a whatchamacallit. Come on.
I've never
what?
had a whatchamacallit. I can
Oh,
picture the
dude.
wrapper. I've never
I've
had
definitely
one.
never had that.
Whatchamacallit's it's kind of like a crunchy
A lot of
crunchy
Krispies.
rice, yeah, crispy nougat chocolatey thing.
Okay.
It's just like the combination of things is really good.
I could get into that. Casey, what's a zebra? What's a what?
It was
Zebra
a
bar?
zebra bar, and it was white chocolate with nougat and nuts in it. It was really good.
I like the way you say nougat, Casey.
nougat.
I also I'm a big fan of the Reese's Fast Break bar. I don't know if you ever had those, but those are really good.
Oh, the big
yeah.
cat, the big
I
one
love-
giant Kit Kat.
It's just a candy
Yeah.
bar with
Oh, that was the greatest.
yeah, Kit
The
Kat.
Take
Much like-
5.
That's what I was gonna say, John. It's
Yeah.
a real Philadelphia answer. Anything with pretzels in it.
Oh yeah, big time.
Much to Colleen's chagrin, I still buy a pack of Big League Chew every now and then.
Oh,
Oh,
my
wow.
god, I thought that was gone. That is
No,
still around.
it's still around, especially in like Five Below.
That's a look, just
Yeah.
walking around, just stuffing Big League Chew in your face. That's a
Oh yeah.
I-
you're
That was
committing.
me
You're
in
committing to a
the Little
life.
League ball fields.
You're
back
committing
in the
to a
day.
whole lifestyle when you buy that stuff.
Oh man. In the
Yeah.
parlance of the youths, chewing Big League, what is it? Big League Chew is a whole mood.
Well, there
It
you
is
go.
hashtag mood. Yeah.
It is a mood.
It's a whole something.
I like to picture Casey just like dressed up. He's at work. Someone comes. They've got a really important IT question. He's like, "Hold on one second," and he reaches in his desk and just pulls out a satchel of Big League Chew and just puts a big old
Unwinds,
thing in
unfolds
his
it.
cheek. Yeah, but not chew it like it's dip. Like he just puts it right in his cheek.
It's funny because right now on my work desk, it's not Big League Chew, but there's at least 3 packs of gum out on my desk.
I used to chew gum like 24/7, and then I just stopped.
Yeah,
Here we are. Very riveting conversation, John. I don't know. Bonkers.
it is.
Thank you,
What I'm
Lord.
trying to say is, if you find bonkers on the side of the road, just eat them. Okay, you'll thank me later.
What could go wrong?
Oh man, good times.
They're so good. I just keep thinking about bonkers. I like Airheads. I'm a big Airheads fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Charleston
Gushers.
Chew.
They were like bonkers with like juice in the middle.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Gushers are the
They're
shit.
still
Although
around.
that's not candy, that's a fruit snack.
Well,
that's,
Gushers-
like, straight
well,
up with the gummies and the grocery
Gushers were
store.
great because 90s parents had no idea how bad sugar was for you, and so they're like, it's a fruit snack. Here you go.
Do you guys remember
Yeah.
Dunkable? What are Dunkaroos?
Oh yeah, Dunkaroos.
Oh,
Dunkaroos are the
shit.
shit.
Dunkaroos.
Good.
Bring those back.
Yeah.
That was like a tub of frosting and a cookie.
Yeah.
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 Mm.
And then if your parents hated you, they got you Lunchables.
I liked Lunchables.
If your
yeah,
parents just didn't,
I'll
if
eat
your
a
parents
Lunchable.
just didn't care about your well-being at all, they were like, "Here's a Lunchable."
I would eat a turkey Lunchable today.
Ew. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I would
I'm
rather
pretty
eat.
sure
I would rather eat Yard Bunkers.
I eat the I
Well,
eat the
that's
what-
clear.
at Starbucks they have the like protein plates. I eat those all the time. It's basically a Lunchable.
Yeah, that's
It's like
the
an
same,
adult
that's
food.
the same
They're
as a
like grown up.
Lunchable, dude. Sure.
They make P3s, which are adult
Yeah.
Lunchables now.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
I hate
They're
them.
they're good too.
Yeah.
Eric, next week, big week.
I like the Ninja Turtle pies with the green frosting.
Oh yeah.
Those are pretty good.
You don't want this episode to end.
What
now,
are we
do
doing
you?
next week, Sean?
Eric was
well-
just the adult version of I like turtles.
I believe we're doing Ready or Not. My understanding was
Ah.
you were not.
Oh,
going to
that's
do
a
it.
bummer. Yeah, I'm gonna be on vacation. I'm out of town, so I don't think I'm gonna catch Ready or Not. We'll see. Maybe
All right.
not.
Well, you keep us posted, but we're gonna be there. We'll be here for Ready or Not.
Actually,
You betcha.
I might actually be able to catch it, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
dude. Like, where are you going on vacation? Like the middle of frickin' nowhere? or-
Well, yes, but I've got a few days before that I can actually probably get out to it. So
I was gonna say vacation is the best time to see a movie.
yeah, that's true. That's what I'm
Um,
thinking. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for Scurvy Stories to Tell in the Dark. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Toodles.
Bye bye.